So good evening. I'm going to pull this toward me a bit. Is that okay? Welcome to everyone. As Carol said, this is number 2 of a series, and we are deep into the question, into the exploration, really, of holistic health. And in our last, our first discussion and our last week's meditation, we were looking at the question of where did I come from? Why am I here? Who am I? Thank you. And and so we kind of were left hanging, if you were there for the meditation, between heaven and earth. Who am I? So that question isn't fully resolved, but as we go on with this series, things hopefully will fall into place, and it will be more, it'll all come together. So tonight the question is, why am I here? And if you have some notion of answering the first question, who am I, might begin to offer some clues of why am I here, or maybe not. So much of what I'm discussing is also available to you in a book called Holistic Health by Swami Rama. And he brings up these questions, and then he proceeds to help us find our way into the answers. But the answers don't come immediately. This quest for who am I, why am I here? And in part 3, we will talk about where am I going? But for tonight, it's why am I here? So these answers become clear as we do practices like meditation, as we work on our health, as our health becomes more vibrant, then our consciousness becomes more clear. And as our consciousness becomes more clear, we begin to make headway with the questions, who am I and why am I here? So the quest for understanding and the quest for health actually dovetail. And I think from my time with Swami Rama and my study with him, that he would say, You can't really have one without the other. So this is a very interesting perspective on health. That health comes as we become clear, as we develop clarity of consciousness. And clarity of consciousness becomes possible as we refine our health. So I'm curious, actually, even at this point, I'm kind of curious about how this lands with people and whether you're thinking, well, sure, I knew that. Or whether you're thinking, oh my God, is it that difficult? Or what are you thinking? So if anybody would like to chip in and chime in and say something, yes. And yes, please unmute yourself and speak.
This is Cassandra.
Oh, yes, Cassandra.
Joseph Delagrati.
Oh, okay, we got two people. Joseph, I saw you first. Cassandra, I'll get to you next. Is that all right?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, Joseph, go ahead.
I mean, yes, there's a starting point. I'm fully with you. I think those absolutely go together. But you see, I go back to the dancing part. The biological part is telling us everything anyway, and there are no secrets and there's no why, because it's all self-evident for me if I'm tuning into the biological reality, which is the nature or the Dharma for me. So I'm already getting that answer by just being fully. Now, the part of the dancing is what I'm missing. We use the word dancing, but we're not dancing actually. So we're doing it virtually. I think the actual dancing brings us grounded into knowing who I am and why I'm here and what I'm all about anyway. So I hope to get more dancing in. Maybe we should have a session on dancing. Thank you.
Yeah, well, at Dancing Shiva, we would be delighted by that approach because that's what we're about too. Good, thank you for that. Cassandra?
Well, that word help, can have sort of a limited connotation in our mind, but I think that so much of the help, if this is what Swami Rama was thinking about, that has to do with how our mind operates, and that our mind really has a lot of control over our body and how we feel about ourselves and the illness. And I think one time we were having a conversation about a problem I had with my knees, and you mentioned to me something about a psychological issue that might be affecting my problem with my knees. And when you said it, it was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So the help is not just, of course it has to do with diet and exercise, but it also has to do with how the mind works and what happens in our lives and how it affects us.
Right, absolutely. And so there are all these disciplines and practices and explorations that need to feed each other, like what we eat and what is our diet like, and then our breathing. So the breath is also really important. How we breathe determines a lot how we experience things. How we breathe affects our mental state. How we breathe can perpetuate a particular way of being or thinking, or certain emotional rising ups from our inner world. All this is part of the breath. And then how do we exercise the body? Because if your body hasn't been moving and experiencing that activity, then the mind becomes restless. And that begins to, so they're all influencing each other. So we have this ongoing project of exploring that. And I say exploring it because it's not so much prescriptive. Because if you say, okay, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, and try to do all those things, then soon you get exhausted and tired of that and give up the whole thing. But if you get involved in the connecting one piece with the other piece and watching and coming to understand how they relate to each other, that becomes fascinating. And then the discoveries lead to new discoveries, and the pieces fit together one by one. So everyone's path is going to be a little different. I remember one of Swami Rama's students was adamant that he was a professor of theology. He was interested in meditation, but he didn't want to do yoga. You know, he said, "Oh, I don't need that, and that's for other people, not for me." And so Swamiji just, you know, shrugged and ignored that. And probably 8 or 10 years later, he was beginning to realize how his stiffness, the stiffness of his body was being reflected in the stiffness of his thinking. And he decided, I think I'm going to take a yoga class. But that was the right time for him, because now he was curious. And now it was something that was tantalizing and appealing and intriguing for him, instead of another thing that he ought to do. So that's part of the skill of taking care of your health, is how to do it in a way that is engaging and helps you learn things on many levels. And then if it's interesting and there's discovery involved, you're likely to keep going and learning. But if it's a long list of things that you have to do, sooner or later, you're going to rebel. It's like, I don't want to do all that. I quit. So yeah, I don't have my glasses tonight. So yeah, Cassandra, did you want to say something more?
No, I could go on and on, but I don't want to do that.
Oh, okay, because your little square was lit up, so I thought, aha, she has a follow-up comment. Yes, so when we talk about health, we're actually talking about, if we really understand health, we're actually talking about the emotions. We're talking about the spiritual dimension of our lives. We're talking about our food. We're talking about exercise. We're talking about cleansing. We're talking about exercise. We're talking about all these things, because each one plays a role in the complex of who we are and how we function and what we're able to understand about our lives and why we're here. And actually, important thing to understand is, why am I here? actually, my experience is that most people are here for a reason. You know, you're here to do something, experience something, learn something, whatever. But what is that thing? So to really grasp that, and it's kind of important to know, you don't take it on as an intellectual process. Rather, it's another discovery that arises out of other discoveries. So as we discover more about our emotional life, and we get some of the obstructing emotional issues out of the way, and we can see more clearly, then we may be able to sense much more easily what we're here to do. What is our reason for being here in this life? So each of these aspects of our life need attention, they need exploration, and clarity gradually emerges. Yes, Joseph, speak up. Oh, unmute yourself and then speak up.
As it beautifully said, I really resonate with everything you're saying, except that when I go to why am I here, I get dissonance, not resonance. And it transmutes into how am I here? Why is too epistemological. It awakens everything in the Western idea about purpose and about going somewhere, and as if somebody were planning it for me, you know, like a heavenly host. I get it much more when I go, how am I being here? They get much clearer answers by rephrasing it that way. So why am I here is too Western, too epistemological, too transcendent. I'm going to go Zen style here, you know, and just be, or Tao style, and be in the present moment, because I get much more out of it. But that's just, you know, what you're saying is leading me there anyway, so it's all good. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So that just highlights the point that everybody has a different way of traveling the path. You know, there's not a one way that everyone should follow. You consider all these things, you work with what is appealing for you, and then you go to the next thing that pops up and says, hi, I'm here too. And you go, oh, okay, that's interesting. When I was practicing holistic medicine for many 45 years, whatever, I would find out from people what they were interested in. Are you interested in homeopathy, Ayurveda, exercise, diet, meditation? What is your interest? And then I would try to shape their program around the thing, starting off with the thing that they were really interested in, so that they would dive in. And and that worked really well. So you can do that for yourself. You know, what is it that appeals to me? And as you go deeply into one of those aspects of life to study it and work with it, eventually, as you are successful in working with that, other things will begin to appear that draw your attention to them. And then you go to that. And as we look back at that process, we realize, oh, that was my path. You know, it's not so easy to know the path in advance, because everything happens. And what happens is what's there is what you work with. And then if you continue that way, it's a delightful adventure.
Swami Ravi, this is David Salih.
Yes.
It occurs to me that when we're asking that question, we also have to keep in mind which I we're talking about, because there would be different answers depending on, am I talking about who am I as a persona, ego, David, or am I talking about I, the universe, or
Yeah,
so,
right. Right. Yes. And that harkens back to last week or last time when we were talking about who am I? Who am I? And so there are many answers to that because we exist on different planes and we are involved in different consciousness, grades and degrees of consciousness, as Swamiji used to say. And so each of them is a possible I am that. And in the classic inquiry, in the Indic traditions, the question goes on. I am that. I am that. And I am that. And gradually we reach the point where we realize, well, there's only one thing, oneness. And I am that, and that's me. And so our self-definitions are certainly likely to limit us if we keep them too narrow. Thank you, David. So if you would like, we can branch out into these various aspects of exploring yourself. Diet, exercise, breath, meditation, cleansing, detox, whatever you're interested in. If you have any questions or comments about those various explorations.
Hello, this is George. Going to ask what distinction you're drawing between a detox / cleanse and diet.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question because Swami Rama used to say, well, there are two ways to clean a vessel, you know, a pot or bowl. You can scrub it out and wash that off, or you can just keep putting clean water into it and eventually it will be clean. And ultimately, that's the most thorough, is just keep pouring clean water through it. And eventually that will go beyond what you could do by, you know, scrubbing and rinsing. So you might say that diet can be the clean water that goes in every day for months and years and be more thorough. Or you can, and you can say that, well, I can also stop my usual diet and do a detox or a cleanse. And for Westerners, of course, who are in a hurry, we're always in a hurry. We want to do it now and get it done. and that's okay, that can work. That's the whole topic of panchakarma, is cleansing. And it's an intensive program of cleansing. But perhaps even more effective would be if we only put in clean stuff, clean water, clean air, clean food, and we would accomplish our goal over a longer period of time, but it would be more thorough. So the long range process is diet, and the short range process is cleansing, detox. However, the traditional teachings are not always attuned to our present circumstances, because we're living in a world that is full of pollution and environmental challenges. And that, I mean, it's possible to separate yourself from that to a great extent. And we're fortunate to live at Dancing Shiva, where we have very clean air, we have clean water, we have no electronic electrosmog, Wi-Fi or cell phone signals or whatever. And however, we did discover that we had dirty electricity, which is a very common problem with photovoltaic systems when you generate your own electricity. So I gradually realized, I knew something was wrong. I kept reading and studying and exploring, and discovered that, oh yeah, we have these transient noise in the electricity. So I found out how to get a meter to check that, and then I found out how to put filters in different parts of the house to eliminate that, and now it's gone. So we aren't totally pristine, and we're totally relating only to nature. We still have a lot of technology to deal with, and a lot of, if we go away from Dancing Shiva or Earth Haven, we encounter lots more pollution and so forth. So we do have to learn how to deal with those. And we have to learn how to correct the effects that they've had on our bodies, or are having on our bodies. So we have things like heavy metals that accumulate in the body over a period of time. We have pesticides that come from how the food is grown. We have all kinds of air pollution with particulate matter, but also things like cyanide if you're in a big city. The list really goes on. Mold problems can create toxicity. And so we have to be cognizant of these influences and try to eliminate them as much as possible, and then clean out our bodies to rid ourselves of the effect that they've had. And so that's a challenge. Depending on where you live, it's a greater or lesser challenge, but we still need to do that. So I think the detox is almost unavoidable in our current society and circumstances. I think you've heard me say this. Some of you have. Swami Rama said, "You people have to learn to wash yourselves." And this is a group of Americans, and they're all like, "Well, I take a shower every day. I don't know what you're talking about." And he said, no, you don't understand. I mean, wash the inside of your body. And that's the detox. That's the cleansing. That's the panchakarma. That's the Gajkarni, that's the, Doti, the neti, all those techniques in yoga for cleaning out stuff that's in the body that you need to get rid of. And so this is a huge topic and largely ignored. It's not as interesting for people to talk about what they should get rid of as it is to talk about what they can eat or put in their mouths. So that's a lovely topic of conversation. People always want to talk about food, but they don't really want to talk about elimination and, detox. So yeah, both are really important. And the more you do the detox and the more you adopt the clean diet, the better they work together. I remember when I lived in New Orleans, when I was a resident in the charity hospital in psychiatry. And I found this lovely little apartment in the French Quarter with like a spiral staircase up to my floor. And it was kind of not so easy to maneuver, but it was, picturesque and quaint. And so I'm taking trash out, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall down the steps and, roll down to the trash. And then one day it occurred to me, if I didn't bring so much stuff in, I wouldn't have to carry so much stuff out. Wow. Duh, but yeah, if we didn't put so much junk in, we wouldn't have to get so much junk out. That's the message. And so I think the more detoxes you do, the more you're inclined to kind of eliminate things that you would have to detox later. And so it's really, I think it's a very important topic and much too often ignored. So if you look at the book that I wrote about holistic medicine, Radical Healing, the longest chapter in the book is on cleansing. And that was because I felt like it was the most neglected topic. And it's actually a pretty good summary of the different issues involved in detox. So, and it's right in the middle of the book. I think it's chapter 8, I think. But anyway, yes. So there's lots to learn about detox. And but I'm not going to just give you a lecture on detox because some people aren't interested right now. So I'll wait for your questions. Yes. Speak up. Is it Joseph?
Yes. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. So I have not been participating because I've been living in Italy. That's 6 hours ahead. So I'm glad I'm back. I'm in Florida. But let me tell you, living in a small town, we don't do detox. It's following exactly what Swami Rama talked about. They eat good food. Nobody talks about detox. And I'm healthier now from having lived there than I am living here. And I don't do detox as long as I can do the process you mentioned, which I think is great. And I think that is the higher level. Let me say the same thing about exercise, though. You can do exercise at the lower level, in other words, and you can do it again in a mindful way, and you get more benefit. It's the same thing. And thirdly, the other component of health and wellness is socialization, the Sangha, which you people are doing there. And the Sangha in my village where I am is exactly what people do. They socialize, and that's a powerful energy exchange that activates health because we have no COVID there at all. Okay.
Great. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I do admit that when I'm shopping and I see I usually buy everything organic, but if it says produced product of Italy, I don't worry about it much because the food there is less toxic. Um, but many of us don't live in that kind of setting, unfortunately, and we do have to deal with the challenges of how do we wash ourselves internally because we're always collecting toxic substances, especially in big cities. And this is a serious problem. And, you know, I don't think that most doctors in New York City, for example, talk with their patients about maybe you should do a detox. I did when I practiced medicine in New York City. And I got good, and people got good results, and they were very excited about it. Yeah. So yeah, it is. It depends on your circumstances.
Swami Ravi, this is Jody.
Yes.
I'm curious, it seems to me as we're asking this question, who am I and why am I here? That if I'm focusing on knowing that I am much bigger than just this body, and paying attention to what my purpose is in being here, that I could almost transmute these other things without having to worry as much or like nitpick or like pay so much attention to the details of, you know, not whatever, eating McDonald's every day, obviously, but like not having to be like, it feels a little bit like when I was focusing only on these things, which was many, many, many years, detox and diet and et cetera, it took up pretty much all of my time and energy. And now that I've let that go, I feel like I'm more following my path and actually opening up to being able to offer the world what I'm here to offer, because I'm not spending all of my time just focused on what am I going to eat, preparing my food, diet, exercise, cleansing. So I feel like there's, if we understand that like energy in our mind and these things are much bigger than the body, that there is a way that we can kind of overcome needing to be so focused on these things.
Yes, no doubt. You're correct. And maybe you wouldn't have gotten to where you are now had you not done that for a while. You know? Yes, as people gain in clarity, and then you can choose what you eat better, and you can manage your life better, and you can, you know, everything is easier, but it takes some traveling to get from here to there. And that's why everyone has to devise and discover their own path, you know, like what do I address now? And if I'm having a lot of pain in my body and I'm not comfortable and I can't think because I feel blurry, then let me see what do I need to change? Is it what I'm eating, or is it exercise, or is it I need to meditate? And I try different things and see what works, and then I get through that, and then eventually I learn how to manage, and I don't have to be so careful about food, but I also make clearer, more sensible choices in the first place. So, you know, yes, it does happen. And that's a delight to hear that it takes time, and then you get to a place where that you don't have to worry about that so much. And then there are issues and challenges on a new level, which does begin to take you more into why am I here? But now you have the wherewithal to discover that. Whereas before everything was kind of confusing. So yeah, this is the journey through health to greater health. And with greater health comes greater clarity. And with greater clarity comes more serenity and more understanding of why we're here and what our what is our particular challenge and what will fulfill us in this life. What's fulfilling.
Would you say that that's one of the main markers or indicators in terms of this question of why am I here, is if what I'm doing is fulfilling?
Yeah, I do think that's true. And I do think as you move along your path and you get more clarity and more alignment with what you're here to do, then the definition of fulfillment begins to morph as well. You know, I might find that things that before were difficult and burdensome and annoying or whatever for me, but now doing those, I feel fulfillment. So everything's morphing as we change, you know, as we move along. And that's why it's so hard to talk about these things in a cut and dried way, you know, because as this changes, that changes, and you know, but we can still, we need, and this is something that Swami Rama said, we need, each person should have their own philosophy of life. And there's not a right one and a wrong one, but you do need to get clarity about that. You know, how am I going to operate? What am I going to do? How do I proceed? I may not know the answers to all the questions yet, but this is my plan for how I'm going to proceed to, and if that doesn't work, I'll try something else. Everyone is unique. There's only one of you. So we can't imitate others and get very far. I saw the bumper sticker on a car in New York one time. This very competent looking young Latina woman, I thought. And then I saw the bumper sticker and it said, "Viva tu vida, no la mia." Live your life, not mine. And I trust she was doing the same. So before we wind up and you go back to your life to apply all these things, do you have any questions? That you will wish you had asked? And Jody?
I don't want to take up time if someone else has a question.
Sure.
Would you suggest just going to chapter 8 in your book for a beginning point for detox, or do you have a suggestion of maybe a beginning detox, internal detox for someone?
Well, I can mention a number of starting points that I think work. And one is to try to eat more foods that are organic and kind of become acquainted with which kinds of produce are more likely. I've mentioned that before, I think maybe on this, but I'm not sure. But there's a website, Environmental Working Group, and they have a ranking of, as far as produce goes, of things that are almost always contaminated unless you buy them organic, and foods that are usually not contaminated even if they're not organic. So you can, shop without buying the expensive organic stuff when it's not necessary. So reducing the incoming toxic substances, while that's not exactly detox, that's more preventing toxicity, it's still a good starting place. Eating more plant-based foods and less animal foods, because the fiber of plants absorbs toxic substances and carries them out of the body. So that actually is a detox kind of thing. Though that research was done 40 years ago, and very, very clear that a high fiber, that doesn't mean things that are coarse. It just means plant fiber is indigestible carbohydrate. So grains and beans and vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds and all that are going to have this fiber which absorbs toxic things and takes them out. So that's a good strategy and very easy to do. If you want to do more actual detox, there's a wonderful detox, cilantro detox, where you take a quarter of a cup of cilantro and blend it up with orange juice or something like that, and drink that once a day. And that's described in the Radical Healing, Chapter 8. And that removes a lot of metals, heavy metals from the body. And then there are relatively simple detox programs that you can buy the powder to make the smoothies, and you take one a day, and then one twice a day, one 3 times a day. It's a 3-week program, and you have an elimination diet where you eliminate the things that are most likely to challenge your immune system, because the immune system, the vast majority of what the immune system does is dealing with foods that come into the body, to keep foods out of the body. So the majority of our antibodies are in the intestinal lining, which is the size of some people say a tennis court and some people say a football field. But anyway, it's large surface, and that's covered with immune antibodies trying to react and remove foods that you don't want, or shouldn't have, or are allergic to. So, so when they do the detox program, they try to eliminate the foods that are likely to stimulate that effect, because then the immune system can occupy itself with detoxing. So the program that I most often recommend is called Metaclear. It's a Metaclear. Yeah, it's called Metaclear, and it's made by Thorne Labs, Thorne. And you can buy that online, and it has an explanation of how you do it online. Yeah, so these are some simple ways to begin. I think it's usually the ones I named first you start with, and then you work your way up to doing the 3-week detox, and then they're more they're more elaborate things you can do to address specific issues like a heavy metal detox or mold detox or so forth. Does that help?
Rudyji,
Yes.
may I add, this is Arabella.
Yes.
I'll just make a couple comments if I may. The Kula here in Beacon did a detox together. And I would just like to say, for those considering detox, the chapter in Radical Healing, we're not just trying to sell you a book. The chapter in Radical Healing is invaluable in terms of the broad brush overview. And if you should decide that you want to do a cilantro cleanse based upon this brief discussion tonight, you should know that you need to have some clay with that cilantro. That will help to bind the what's it called? The liberated heavy metals so that you can expel them well.
The mobilized ones, yeah.
Yeah, the mobilized ones.
Brought back out into the circulation by the cilantro, and then they're in your blood and they are toxic. And that is really quite dramatic. I mean, the first time I did that, I took the cilantro and I was like, oh yeah, this is great, this will be easy. And a few hours later, I was seeing patients and I couldn't, I thought, I'm gonna have to cancel my patients. I feel horrible. I don't know what's happening. I feel like I've gotten sick. And I usually know that something's coming on and what's going on. And so then I remembered the thing about the clay, you know, like there are different kind, you know, green clay. There are all these clays you can use to absorb toxic stuff. And I had something in the closet, was in the bathroom. And so I went and took a spoonful of that and put it in a glass of water and drank it. And like within 10 minutes, I felt fine. And I thought, no, that can't be true. And so the next day I did the same thing. I drank the cilantro and I said, yeah. And again, I felt horrible. I drank the clay. I was okay. And I went, okay, I believe it. So yeah, if you don't have to take the clay, and if you don't need to take the clay, it's okay, but have it on hand, because you might find that all of a sudden you feel horrible and you don't know what to do. But that's what you can do.
The other thing I would like to say is that the manufacturers of Mediclear, Thorne, have currently, they have just released, at least it's new to me, a 10-day protocol for the cleanse. Oh. And I would just like to say it's very intense. People like to choose it because it's fast. But it's very intense and probably not for the faint of heart. I've done Thorne maybe about 20 times now, plus Panchakarma 8 or 9 times. And it's still too fast. So word to the wise.
Well, that's helpful. Yeah, I didn't know they'd done that. Yeah, I mean, why push it? Don't do violence to your body. That's not the proper spirit of detox. And so they may advertise the 10-day one and you'll be tempted, oh, I'll just do the 10-day one. But Arabella's saying it's very, very intense. So I would do the 3-week one. It's a gentler thing that goes, it's more gradual, and that's much more advisable. Well, good luck to everyone with these adventures. And I hope you will venture out into detox, and I hope you will explore all of these possibilities, whichever one jumps out at you now. You know, is it diet? Is it breathing? Is it detox? Is it meditation? Is it exercise? So forth. And yeah, and I really am not trying to sell radical healing, but all of these are discussed in Radical Healing. The detox has its own chapter, but there are chapters on diet, there are chapters on exercise, so forth. So that can be helpful to you if you're not quite sure what you want to do, what you want to engage with. So next week, we will do a meditation.
And being the promoter that I am, we do have Radical Healing books. So we'd love to help you out with that if you're looking for one. And if you have questions, you know, send a question. We're willing to, well, Swami Ravi is willing to answer the questions.
Absolutely.
And there's always an opportunity to do a consult with him as well. If you want to go deeper into your health, your particular health and your particular needs, he's available for that. So wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Next week, we'll have a meditation on this subject of why am I here? And we'll go broaden it in a little bit different context. So join us. And if you will, unmute yourself and let's say goodnight to everyone.
And happy Thanksgiving.
And have a great holiday in whatever you eat. But eat healthy, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Everyone.
Night.
Night.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God.